Hey, what is up, Design Squad? Welcome back, and in this video again I'm gonna share tips for junior designers and people getting into UX. Over the years I coached and mentor and worked with a lot of junior level people who come, let's say, from different backgrounds. All of them almost have to get in the rut and understand, let's say, intercommunications and how to be more productive and how to manage their time, how to work in a team, how to follow, how to, let's say, follow instructions and give instructions, how to manage up. There's just so many different bits which you need to learn over the years as you develop. So today I decided to share 12 different mistakes which I see a lot of junior designers making. If you can just add it by subtracting, that's going to be the best way, because if you know things what not to do, then you can do the opposite and you can do better. And so number one is spreading themselves too thin. It doesn't matter what level you are. You could be a director, chief experience officer. If you do too many things and you cannot focus too much, or you cannot dedicate hours or days on something, you're never going to arrive at a good outcome. Quality definitely takes time. So the sooner you can understand how to prioritize things, the sooner you're gonna do better than your previous self. Now, second one is about 9 to 5. If you join the design industry and UX design for a very long time and you just want to take your time to develop your skills, 9 to 5 is definitely going to be enough. However, for every designer, I suggest to spend extra time, to spend at least a few hours on the weekend to working on their own projects, practicing those skills you learned. As a junior, you take those new methods you learned in, let's say, a bootcamp book, maybe a senior, maybe a lead like myself. Usually the problems you have in your workplace are very specific. It allows you to grow in very linear approach. However, you always must practice it outside work. I always recommend to find passion projects, side projects, do more, spend extra time in your own development, practicing the skills, consulting for a startup, maybe giving advice to your friends, maybe solving someone else's problem, let's say your family members, and then applying those skills and coming up with a new case study for your portfolio, something along those lines. Now, number 3 is confusing UX and UI, or confusing things which are driven by user research and very visual means, which is the UI work. Because a lot of people are going to come to you and ask for UI design because they don't understand UX. However, you need to be a UX designer. You need to advocate for user research. And I see a lot of junior designers who jump immediately into UI, or advocate UI design, advocate pixel pushing. But that's not what we do. That's not our strength. It's just a deliverable. And so the sooner you realize that UI is not UX and UX is not UI, the better you're gonna do. And the next one is the opposite of 9 to 5. It's focusing on progressing way too fast. Some juniors tend to focus on, let's say, stepping up, becoming midweight, senior, lead, head of, and reality is it's gonna take you years to develop. It's not gonna be immediate. For example, from junior to senior, I would say it's at least, a handful of years. Couple of years, maybe 5 years, depends where you are at, what problems you solve, who you work with, who's your senior, if they allow you to grow. But still, it takes so much time to step up. And so I would be patient. I would spend extra time. I would put all the effort in. I would focus so much. But I also know off the back of my head that it's gonna take time to step up. A lot of junior designers tend to be not sure what they should be doing. Or let's say they wait for a more senior person to tell them what to do or what's the right thing to do. I would take more risk. I would recommend you to propose new things. I would recommend you to initiate things. And even, let's say, let's do this, and then listen what, let's say, more senior person would tell you to do differently, and then adjust based off of that. The worst you can do is just wait for someone to tell you what to do, because in that case you're gonna have gaps, you're gonna have communication issues, you're gonna have mixed expectations, which are not good for anyone. If we jump to the next thing, which is a perfect segue, is doing exactly what's being told. So let's say if stakeholders who have no idea what UX is about telling you that you should talk only to 2 people instead of talking to 5, or a handful of people in a specific user group, not pushing back. As a junior, you are a professional. You're a professional for UX, you're a professional for design, you're an advocate, you know how to do different things, and so you should advocate. You should gracefully push back. Be political, don't be brash. Now, a lot of people who are junior, we focus a lot on the craft, on technical skills, which is great, you have to do it. But the next step up, Or a thing you need to keep off the back of your head, that articulation, selling, getting buy-in from stakeholders is as important as the technical skills. And sometimes I would say it's the most important bit. The communication is underrated when it comes to production time. So you must do that. Next one is not reading enough or reading too much. It could go both ways. If you like to consume books or if you hate books, you're gonna end up on both spectrum. The ideal space is really in the middle. You want to be reading just enough to apply it. I think the best way to learn for anyone is to find a problem and then find a solution. And so if you don't know how to do things, or let's say your lead or senior decides to make an action and go one way, ask why. And if they don't tell you the answer you want to hear, go to Google, find something about UX, why they decided to do something like that, find more about it, dig deeper, go on that trail of knowledge until you are getting tired. I wouldn't recommend to read books for the sake of reading, and so the best way to learn is to find that medium where you read just enough and you apply as much as you can of it. Juniors tend to over-glorify UX. You tend to forget that UX is really just one discipline out of many. While it's very glamorous, it's very polished, it gives very awesome results, because imagine you talk to business people, you get their problems, you talk to users, you get their needs and pain points, you come up with great ideas, you innovate, you produce outcomes, maybe it's wireframe, maybe it's flow, maybe it's even product design, mock-ups, things of that nature, you make prototypes, it's amazing stuff, you're in the right place, especially if you're watching this video. But the point is that it's just one aspect of it. You still need development, you still need product people, you still need business people. You're just one aspect to the team. And so you need to be considerate of all of it. The only thing what makes you a hero is that you're a user champion. You're not Steve Jobs, and you shouldn't aim to be one. And that's one of the things what I tell every junior designer, not to get drunk on their own supply. Better spend that energy to communicate with other people. Next one is a bit more technical. It's really that juniors sometimes tend to forget to engage with the users enough. Simply jump from very basic assumptions or hypotheses straight into ideation, into production, prototyping, and end up with something which is sort of answers user needs, but not entirely. And so you must engage with users as much as you can. I have so many videos on why you, let's say, should prototype with the users, why you should run workshops with the users, why users should be part of your workflow. And the next one is very related, which is working in isolation. Again, if you can involve more people, let's say in your UX ideations, in your sketching, involve developers, involve business people, showcase how you come up with those different bits. It's definitely going to make more sense to, let's say, your stakeholders, your product managers. How do you come up with different bits? If you're a researcher, play back the themes, make sessions, schedule your own meetings, schedule your own workshops. Never ever work with isolation. You need other people's input. You need to voice your assumptions, because sometimes you do user research, you talk to people, you come up with something, and then in the end, it's not something anyone else thought about, or they thought about it, but they came up with different conclusions. And so it's your responsibility to get to the people and come up with something else which you can work on together. Again, if we go back to the number one, prioritization is key, keeping time is key, keeping deadlines is key. One of the examples could be, let's say, what I see juniors do. If they're, let's say, given a deadline from business or myself that it has to be done by tomorrow, we're gonna spend all that time up until tomorrow, up until last minute, and then showcase it very last minute what we did. All the deadlines you're given normally account for contingency, meaning there is a percentile which every senior, I can guarantee your boss, your more senior designer is gonna give you a deadline which has at least extra hour or at least a few minutes which you could spend on tweaking things. They're gonna account for changes all the time, and if they don't, they shouldn't manage you. But the point is that majority will do so, and so what you need to do is to account for that too. Work backwards. Let's say if you have a deadline of 8 hours or 5 days, try to on a third or fourth day to engage with your other UX people, more senior people, your team, your core product team or service team, whoever you work with, to validate the bits. Say, hey, am I on the right track? Do you think I should improve anything? How does that look like? Showcase to the users. Try to engage with a person who should be involved in that process as early as. Don't wait till the last minute. That's the worst thing you could do. Just in such a field like UX, product design, service design, It's an iterative approach. So you are gonna learn as you go. You're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna adapt, you're gonna do better as you go. And so these are the 12 bits, the 12 mistakes any junior designer is gonna make at some point, or even any experienced designer. Let's say sometimes I make these mistakes, but at least I know what I should be doing instead. And so I hope it's useful. If so, give a like, subscribe to this channel, and until next time.